What's going on, YouTube? This is Michael W. Johnson coming to you live from the new show, The Progressive Machine. And today we're going to be doing a video that I think is really important that we talk about and kind of clear some things up. It's a pretty big topic and things that it gets brought up a lot in the mainstream media. I hear it a lot at home as well, as far as people I know, people in passing that I talk to about politics. And that topic is electability, right? So the 2020 presidential race is in full swing. The Democratic primaries are about 6 months away, but everybody's campaigning. As of now, we've gone through 2 sets of debates over the last 2 months. And as you all know, my candidate of choice that I endorse and support is Bernie Sanders. I've been a Sanders supporter since 2015 when he first announced, and I found out who he was and I learned a lot more about him. And he's running again in 2020. So let's go over a few things that really bother me, that really just don't make a whole lot of sense to me as a voter and as someone who is involved in politics. A lot of times people will say that Bernie Sanders isn't electable because he's a socialist. His ideas are too radical. They're too left-leaning. They're not going to defeat Donald Trump. And a lot of people are saying they're looking for the candidate who can defeat Donald Trump in the general election in 2020, in November. So their idea is a lot of people who are apolitical, maybe not so involved in politics, maybe headline readers or people that don't really pay a whole lot of attention. They just go with the flow and don't really follow politics as heavily as I do, and as others who do political commentary. So I'm going to break it down for you. And it's not any fault of their own. It's just that they either, don't have time, or it's not something they're really 100% interested in. But they all have this general thing of they don't like Trump. So they're going to vote based off name recognition, identity politics, things of that sort. So for me personally, I think Bernie Sanders is the most electable candidate out of the 20 or 24. But if we're going to talk about the top 2, we're talking about Joe Biden and we're talking about Bernie Sanders. I don't think Joe Biden is electable. I don't think he's as electable as people make him out to be. And a lot of people who are apolitical support Joe Biden based off the fact that he was the vice president for Barack Obama. And a lot of people don't dig much deeper than that. The fact that he was the vice president for our first African-American president earns him brownie points right out of the gate. And I believe that identity politics is not necessarily the way to go. You should vote for the man and their record, not on their identity. Whether they're the color of their skin, their nationality, their religion, their sexual orientation, things of that sort. You should go back and look at their past and their record. And I said this the same thing during the 2016 election with Hillary Clinton. People loved and voted for Hillary Clinton because she was Bill Clinton's wife, not because of her record and what she had done. Now, in 2016, I'll be the first to tell you that the primaries were absolutely rigged. It was proven that Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, released the DNC emails, the Democratic National Committee emails, showing that they were going to rig the primaries in favor of Hillary Clinton, no matter what it took, right? And a lot of people stepped down from the DNC, got in trouble, left office because of it. So when you're talking about electability, right, you look at polls, you look at favorability, things of that sort. So a lot of polls are showing Bernie in a strong second place. Some polls are showing him almost tied within the margin of error. And right now, it's very early to go off of polls. The first primary is not for another 6 months, and that's in Iowa. But one thing we can look at that I agree is very substantial and really shows you the type of power and support that the candidates have is individual donors. Who is donating to this person's campaign and how many people and how much, right? So Bernie Sanders right now is leading all of the candidates in individual donors at about 750,000. And that number's a little old. Now he's closer to 1 million, actually. And how many individual contributions he's received, which is about 2 million individual contributions, and how many volunteers you have on your campaign. Bernie also has the most at 1 million volunteers. 1 million people are willing to take time out of their day to volunteer for this campaign. If that doesn't show you that he has a lot of force and power behind him, then you're crazy. So what I want to show you real quick is a map showing across the country the individual donors of each top tier candidate for the Democratic primary. Okay. Now this map came out, I want to say about a week ago from the New York Times. Now there's going to be two maps. Okay. And the reason there's two maps is because the first map has all of the candidates in it. Now, because of the top candidate, and everybody is color coded, you cannot see any of the other candidates on the map. So they had to create a second map without the leader to show where everybody else is doing well. So to show you that, I'm going to bring it up right now. All right. So here's the map. And this came out from the New York Post. So Bernie Sanders is represented by blue. Okay. He has 746 individual donors, 746,000 individual donors. Elizabeth Warren is represented by green, 421,000. Pete Buttigieg, Mayor Pete, he is represented by purple. He has 390,000. Kamala Harris, Senator of California, has 277,000. She's yellow. Biden is orange at 256,000. And Beto O'Rourke is red, and he has 188,000. Clearly, you can see that Bernie Sanders is literally wiping the floor with these people, with these other candidates. His support goes from coast to coast, and the darker the blue, the stronger the support. But as you can see, it's literally drowning out all of the other candidates on the map to where you can't even see a majority of their support. So what New York Times did is they created a second map without Bernie Sanders. And this is what it looks like. Okay, so that's the second map. And you can see Bernie Sanders is faded out there. So this is what it looks like. Elizabeth Warren is doing really well. Joe Biden seems to be doing well in the South. Of course, Beto O'Rourke is going to win his state of Texas, right? But this is donors, right? These are real people donating their hard-earned money to candidates that they believe in. And again, they had to get rid of the top guy, man, for everybody else to even be seen. Now, if this doesn't show that Bernie Sanders is electable, that his policies are not favored across the country, I mean, progressive policies poll extremely well. Medicare for all, 70% with Americans. The Green New Deal, over 60% with Americans. Legalizing marijuana, over 60%. Just all these policies that are left-leaning progressive policies poll extremely well. Bernie Sanders, and a majority of Bernie Sanders donations, not a single one was given by super PACs or large corporations or billionaires or millionaires. His contributions are an average of $18. Bernie Sanders has raised $36 million since he got in February or March. And that is an average donation of $18 per person and has raised $36 million. If that doesn't show grassroots support, then I don't know what else does. If that doesn't show electability, I don't know what else does. Alrighty, so next we're going to talk about favorability. Favorability, Donald Trump's in the 40s. He's gone up a little bit from when he was elected, but he was around 43% favorability and got elected. Okay. Favorability came out a couple weeks ago. Bernie Sanders is at 72% favorability. That's pretty high. Joe Biden is at 69%. So again, he beats him in donations. He beats Biden in favorability as well. Okay. They both have high name recognition. But this is where I'm gonna compare records real quick, because I don't want people to think that I don't have the info or the data to back it up. Joe Biden was the vice president for Barack Obama. We all know this. A lot of people think that he's riding Obama's coattails a little too hard, and he's not breaking away and making a name for himself. Joe Biden ran for president twice. Joe Biden ran for president in 2008, lost, and he ran for president in, I believe it was 1988, lost. Okay. Joe Biden's record versus Bernie Sanders' record is non-comparable. I mean, you break it down issue for issue, which is what we're going to do real quick. We're going to go over it really quickly, and you be the judge. Because in my head, yes, people can change. People can have differences over time, where basically they can have an opinion years ago and change and become a better person. I totally believe that people can change if they really want to change. But my question to you is, as a voter, do you want a president who was on the wrong side of things his entire 40-year career? Or do you want somebody who's been on the right side of justice and rights of working people since day one? I'm going to go with the guy that's always been on the right side of things. So let me give you an example. In the 60s, Bernie Sanders was one of the creators of a group called CORE. They fought against segregation and racism in the 1960s. Bernie Sanders, and there are pictures out there to prove this, Bernie Sanders was arrested for protesting civil rights and was chained to an African-American woman when they were doing a sit-in protesting civil rights to desegregate housing at the University of Chicago. Okay. He marched with Dr. Martin Luther King. There's also evidence of this, and he will tell you himself that he marched with Dr. Martin Luther King. He has also fought for gay rights since the 70s. Okay. And there's videos out there that'll support that as well. He's fought for women's rights, union rights, blue collar and white collar working middle class rights since day one. He has the experience, he has the knowledge, and his policies are not so radical anymore because they're being adopted into mainstream media, and people are extremely excited and want these policies. The college debt, student colleges or public colleges and universities tuition free, Medicare for all, legalizing marijuana, the Green New Deal, which will rebuild our infrastructure, create millions of jobs, and save the environment from global warming. These are big issues with the American people, not just Democrats, not just Republicans, not just independents. Americans as a whole like these policies, and the polls will show you that. So then we go to Joe Biden, who worked with segregationists in the 70s, and Kamala Harris pointed that out in the one of the debates, to where he opposed busing. Okay. He has videos from the 80s where he's basically saying, I tried to go to the credit card companies. He said this, I tried to prostitute myself to them, but they all told me to come back when I'm a little older, son. There's a video on that. It's hilarious. So he's clearly the establishment candidate. Elizabeth Warren called him out on being the credit card king, right? Then he wrote the 1994 crime bill, which incarcerated more minorities, African Americans specifically, than any other bill in the history of this country, created private prisons, created the 3-strike law. People are getting incarcerated for longer periods of times because it makes money. Okay. He voted for the Iraq war. 20 years later, we're still in Iraq, $7 trillion later, and thousands upon thousands of American lives lost. He voted for TPP and NAFTA, these horrible trade agreements that sent millions of jobs overseas, putting factories and workers out of business. Okay. Bernie Sanders opposed all of that. He opposed the Iraq war and led the opposition against it. These horrible regime change wars just cost money and lives and end in sorrow and misery. He voted against TPP and NAFTA because he knew it would take good union paying jobs overseas. He voted against all of this. So when you compare their records, and we can compare their records all day long, who are you going to vote for? You're going to vote for the guy that supports the unions, fought for civil rights, fought for gay rights, fought for women's rights, fought for workers' rights. His entire career and his record will prove that. And the worst thing that the mainstream media can tell you about Bernie Sanders is he's too consistent. Or do you want someone like Joe Biden, who worked with segregationists, created the 94 crime bill, created horrible trade agreements that sent our jobs overseas, voted for a war that ended thousands of lives, cost trillions of dollars? Who are you going to vote for? Who are you going to support? Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton 2.0. We want to talk about electability. You saw what happened in 2016. They ran an unfavorable candidate, Hillary Clinton, a centrist, moderate Democrat, the same old status quo, and she lost. She lost to Donald fucking Trump. So again, in 2020, we have this bright idea that Hillary 2.0, Hillary Clinton with a dick, Joe Biden, is all of a sudden going to be more electable, and he's going to defeat Donald Trump. Every poll out right now shows Bernie Sanders beating Donald Trump, and some by double digits. It shows Bernie Sanders beating Donald Trump in Texas by 5 points, which is huge. So next, I'm going to show you. People say Bernie's too old. Joe Biden is a year younger than Bernie Sanders, yet people support him. So Bernie Sanders, to me, when he speaks, is of sound mind and body. I mean, he doesn't miss a beat, right? But Joe Biden, when Joe Biden starts to speak, and those of you who follow politics and have followed his career know that he puts his foot in his mouth. And when he starts talking, his numbers go down. And we like to call them his gaffes, right? They are basically fuck ups that he's done. And I just got 2 of them here that, actually 3. I got 3. I'm going to show you really quick because I think they're absolutely hilarious. So this one happened just the other day. It was 3 days ago, where Joe Biden is giving a speech. And this is what he says.
To Iowa, if I can, because Joe Biden gave what was considered a blistering speech about President Trump. It was a moment that some said was one of the strongest of his campaign to date. He's been out there on the stump doing retail politics. It is a version of Joe Biden that some people think is one of the better versions of him, but he's also the version of Joe Biden that says things that are controversial inadvertently, to be sure. And Tolu, I want to play you something he said when he was speaking to a group of what we understand was Hispanic and Asian voters in Iowa yesterday. So let's listen to this.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids. Wealthy kids, black kids, Asian kids. No, I really mean it, but think how we think about it.
Poor kids are just as talented, Tolu, as white kids. The distinction there is there are poor whites, and how do you think that plays there?
Okay, so that was the first one. You saw it. I mean, Jesus Christ, Joe, what the fuck are you doing? And he does this type of thing all the time. So let me get to another one. Okay, so the next one was when he was it was at the debate, the most recent one, and he was giving his closing statement, and he was telling you to go to his website, and this is what he said.
If you agree with me, go to Joe 30330 and help me in this fight. Thank you very much.
What the fuck, Joe? What the fuck is Joe 30330? What nonsense are you talking, Joe? And lastly, we're going to go to this one right here. So those of you who know, most of you know, if you don't know, you live under a rock. There was 2 mass shootings a couple days ago in El Paso, Texas, and Dayton, Ohio, where 29 people lost their lives. And Joe Biden said that the mass shootings happened in Houston and Michigan. I mean, just like Donald Trump sent his condolences to Toledo. I mean, come on, dude. It's a joke. So there you have it. Joe Biden is a joke. If you really think he's going to beat Donald Trump, you're sadly mistaken. I don't think that running the same type of candidate that lost in 2016 is going to win. If we run strictly on let's just beat Trump and fuck policy completely and fuck what we believe in, we're going to lose. We can't spend all of our time bashing Donald Trump. That's not going to win. We have to come up with policies that speak to the American people. They get people out to vote. Higher turnout means we win. Okay. And Joe Biden telling people, his friends on Wall Street, that elect me and nothing will fundamentally change. He said that. Look it up. He just said that not that long ago. He prostitutes himself to the credit card companies, Wall Street, Big Pharma, you name it. There's a reason why Joe raised a bunch of money but has literally a quarter of the donors than Bernie Sanders, because he's getting big dollar donations. And if you think a candidate who's taking money from the establishment is going to vote in your best interest just because he was Obama's vice president, you're a fucking moron. So hopefully my video opened your eyes a little bit. Hopefully it makes you want to do a little research on the candidates. I personally love Bernie Sanders. I think he's a great candidate. I like Tulsi Gabbard as well. I like Elizabeth Warren. I like Andrew Yang. I would love to see the 4 of them team up when Bernie takes office. And that's what I'm hoping for. But guys, to think that Joe Biden can win when Hillary lost is a joke. Seriously, look at the numbers, look at their history, look at their voting records, and make the determination for yourself. Trust me, just go on YouTube and type in crazy shit that Joe Biden has done, and it's all right there. It's all right there. So please do the research for yourself, find out a little bit more about the candidates, and if you have any type of rationale, you will lay out all the data and just see that Bernie has been on the right side of things time and time again, whereas Joe has not. Joe is a centrist, moderate Democrat, same as Hillary Clinton, who lost in 2016. Centrist moderates, the same old status quo, corporations and establishment elites who don't give a fuck about you, the middle class and the working poor, the backbone of this country. If you vote for someone like Biden, you're going to end up with another 4 years of Trump, because that's what happened with Hillary Clinton. And if you think he has a better shot than Hillary Clinton, you're fucking dreaming. I want the guy that's going to fight for me and my family and my paycheck. And I want the guy who's going to fight for healthcare in this country. And I want the guy who's going to fight for renewable energy, the Green New Deal, creating union jobs, building this country back up, bringing jobs back. And that's what Bernie Sanders is going to do. So if you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe, spread the word, get it out there, guys. Support Bernie Sanders. Come out to vote. We're only going to win if you come out to vote. Hey everyone, this is Michael Johnston, your host here at the Progressive Machine. Hope you liked the video. If you did, hit that like button and subscribe for future videos. And check us out at our Twitter at twitter.com/progressivemac.